Following a 50-year career at UC San Diego, Associate Vice Chancellor for Public Programs and Dean of Extension, Mary Walshok concluded her tenure as Dean in June 2021. She continues, however, her service as AVC for Public Programs through the successful launch phase of the university's new downtown platform. In this role, she continues to work closely with community outreach leaders across UC San Diego to steward a rich portfolio of arts, lectures, special events, and educational offerings of value to San Diego's highly diverse regional community. Dr. Walshak is a highly respected thought leader and subject matter expert on aligning workforce development with regional economic growth. An adjunct professor of sociology, she has authored 6 books and more than 100 articles, reports, and book chapters on regional innovation, workforce development, and the role of research institutions in regional economies. Dr. Walshak has been recognized through numerous awards, including the Bynum Tudor Honorary Lectureship at Oxford University, conferment of the Royal Order of the Polar Star by the King of Sweden, an honorary doctorate from the Stockholm School of Economics, and most recently as a recipient of the highest award for service to the society and the economy, presented by the Royal Swedish Academy of Engineering and Economic Sciences, of which she is an elected member. She also serves on the boards of San Diego Connect, which she helped found in 1985, the La Jolla Playhouse, the San Diego Opera, the United States-Mexico Foundation for Science, and Access Academy and the Kyoto Symposium Organization, as well as the Girard Foundation. We are honored and pleased to have Associate Vice Chancellor Mary Walshak with us today. Take it away, Mary. Mary, be sure to unmute yourself.
I was saying thank you so much, Susan. And I was acknowledging that I think I have many friends and colleagues on the screen, which is a delight, but also a relief because I'm going to be getting assistance going through my slides. They're very quick slides with a few words to give you a sense of the essence of what we're trying to achieve downtown and lots of pictures. But before I do the slide presentation, I'd just like to sort of set the stage because of who we all are. Many of you know I will be celebrating my 80th birthday in September. And so I've been around this city and this university a long time, and also had an undergraduate and a graduate experience that was quite different than students may be likely to have moving into the 21st century. So a lot of what I'm going to describe to you about this downtown platform, and we call it a platform deliberately because platforms are spaces on which multiple small units of activity can be located and leverage one another's assets and a core infrastructure, in our case of technology and facilities and transportation linkages and furnishings and video equipment and a cinema. And so UC San Diego at Park and Market is a platform in that 21st century way that we think about platforms. And it's been designed, and I'm going to show you what the 4 floors look like and the kinds of functions which are highly diverse to be reflective of the full array of capabilities and potential contributions great research universities like UC San Diego make to their communities. I think it's interesting for our generation, uh, growing up in research universities, we all understood that the School of Engineering and the School of Medicine had to provide lifelong learning. Nobody wanted brain surgery done by somebody who had never taken another course once he or she graduated from medical school. And no community wanted to build bridges with engineers that were using knowledge and technology from 40 years ago. And what I think has changed in the world today is that phenomenon of the need for new knowledge about materials, about processes, about purposes, about the tools for building buildings, or how we teach kids and diverse kids with multiple languages in classrooms. All of that is new knowledge that is emerging continuously. And so the need for the university to be a resource for its graduates over a 60-year period, not just a 6 or 12-year period, has become extraordinary. And it's reflected in the enrollments just at UC San Diego Extension, which today are over 100,000 annually. So that's a new reality that has influenced how we think about this building, that it's a place for young college graduates who maybe need certification to get their first job. It's a place actually for our own undergraduates and graduate students who want to do projects in the city, or working with the school district, or interacting with businesses downtown. But it's also a place of learning for advanced professionals and for people transitioning into retirement, because the content of all work, but also the information we need to be effective citizens, is constantly changing. So knowledge is what's driving the design of this building, and the diverse forms of knowledge people need across the lifespan. And you'll see that in our programs in a moment. The second thing that I think is as important is that social diversity today is greater and more significant, perhaps, than ever in our history. I walked the streets with real estate and the chancellor looking for a place to locate or purchase a building that would make a statement about our commitment to equity, diversity, and inclusiveness. This building is located in what's known as the Promise Zone downtown. It's on a trolley stop at Park and Market, and that trolley starts in San Isidro and it ends on the UCSD campus. So this transportation linkage that will allow us to serve diverse populations, both on campus and in the community in new ways, is terribly important. But also, and this is sort of my final setup, and then I'll show you some pretty pictures. Today, the kinds of global imperatives that even local communities, small businesses, healthcare providers have to deal with need to be better understood. I have so much respect for what Peter and his colleagues created at GPS, because it's a window into the world for everyday citizens in San Diego, as well as a center of important scholarship and the opportunity
They can't hear me.
the opportunity to to influence public policy. So we see the downtown building as an important platform for world music, for public affairs, for civic education, a place where people who are working in a local community can get a window into the larger world of which we're a part, that affects their lives every day. So that's my setup, colleagues. So this is the picture. This is Market Street. And the building we occupy is this 4-story glass box. And on the one side is Park Avenue, where the trolley is, about 3 blocks up from the downtown Central Library, and about 3 blocks away from San Diego City College, and eventually Balboa Park. And on the other side is 11th. So we are a full city block, which represents wonderful opportunities for programming. So let's go to the next slide. Based on, can we just step back? I want to let everyone know that we've determined that it's UC San Diego Park and Market. We looked at branding it, you know, the U or the City Exchange building, and just decided that the location itself was a strong brand after doing a lot of focus groups. And we're in the heart of the East Village, which means, yes, we are bumping into homeless issues, to housing issues, to lots of vexing issues that are facing the region. And our presence there is very, I think, symbolically important and potentially important to finding solutions to these growing problems. Okay, we'll go to the next slide. We see it as a new intersection of people, ideas, art, and innovation. We're using this notion that where we express our civic DNA. I know many of us in this conversation today are products of liberal arts education, and we're bringing a spirit of liberal arts to the programming in this building and the design of this building, because it's clear that we need to be a contributor to workforce development and to economic development. But given what has happened in our country over the last 5 years, politically, socially, and culturally, it's extremely important to have a lively center of arts and ideas down, and we're building that into downtown. So let's go to the next slide. Next slide, please. Yeah. So we're programming cultural experiences, learning opportunities, civic engagement opportunities with the new Center for Civility on campus, having space there. Student Affairs is going to have space downtown. EDI is having space, and collaboration. We have a number of campus academic programs that sort of have a pied-à-terre on the 4th floor of the building. Public health will be there. Urban Studies will be there. The Qualcomm Institute, the Center for Renewable Materials, US-Mexico Studies. In other words, teaching and research programs from the campus that can benefit the community or benefit from action in the community will be present there. And because we're bundling this, and I'll show you in a moment, a cinema, a concert hall, a bistro, an amphitheater, classroom and research space, computer labs, a gigantic Qualcomm screen on the 1st floor in the foyer, we're creating this wonderful bundle of cultural learning, collaborative and engagement opportunities for our students as well as for the community. Let's go to the next slide. So here is the picture to give you a sense. That's the red trolley, and it stops near the person with a backpack here on the far lower left. And the building, as you can see, is just a black glass box. It isn't necessarily architecturally stunning from the outside, but we feel the way we've designed the inside enables a panoply of activities unlike any building downtown. Let's go to the next slide. I think we have 2 or 3 pictures for you to look at. Chihuly is aspirational, but we wanted people to see what the building looks like from Market Street. And what you don't see here is one of these large windows. If you look at these 2 outdoor lights here to the left of the front door, that window is now filled with a Qualcomm screen, a gigantic LG screen that projects both indoors and outdoors. So it will be very, very lively and colorful and inviting. Let's go to the next slide. We talk about endless possibilities, and I'll tell you why. Because the way we've designed the interior of the building, there are very few walls. There's almost no fixed furnishings. And so we could transform the foyer into a study hall during the day, or a place for people just to hang out with a cup of coffee, into a dinner party for an evening, into a jazz concert venue, into a place where kids come and actually we're doing this and have a conversation with Professor Cornell West about social justice. And you can do it all in the same physical space, because the chairs, the tables, the technology is all very, very flexible. And so you can continuously reconfigure rooms. Let's go to the next slide. We're trying to build bridges and opening minds, and it helps a lot to have the trolley. Next slide. And we even have a visual arts installation space. And I'm going to describe to you our first installation. And I want to describe the subtle reframing we approached that we think will be very, allow for a very successful installation. We're calling it 40 Years of Public Art, the Stewart Collection at UC San Diego. The person who suggested it said, the Stewart Collection at UC San Diego, 40 Years of Public Art. And we decided to switch it. And we have fabulous photographs, large and small, almost all in color, and dozens of videotapes of conversations with the artists over the last 40 years. And we have an exhibition space with walls on wheels, just like they have at Menge and other museums. And that will be our opening exhibition and installation. In terms of performing arts, we're programming series with the World Music Center. So we're doing gamelan concerts and gong concerts and a Syrian music festival. But we're also working with Dan Atkinson, who used to be at UCSD and continues to be a jazz curator in town, on a series of jazz concerts, Camerata, mainly Mozart. We're working with department chairs around lectures in history, the Ethics Center, bringing, if you will, the intellectual capital that's onto the campus into lecture series downtown. And we're doing lots of special events. For example, the Urban Land Institute, which is a national organization, is having their national conference in San Diego this spring. They have programmed the entire, late spring, they programmed the entire building for the 3 or 4 days that they're in town. And many of our own faculty in urban studies and professionals in campus real estate will be making presentations. So that gives you a flavor for the kind of activity. Let's keep moving. Next slide, please. And we want to focus on civic resilience. So I mentioned we have a collaboratory that covers the 3rd and 4th floor. We have over 20 legally they're tenants, but in fact, they're potential partners. The Burnham Center for Community Advancement is going to be located in the building, and Malin Burnham has made a testimonial gift to UCSD to assure the sustainability of that center. The Economic Development Corporation for all of San Diego is moving their entire operation into the building. NCRC will have an office in the building. Black Chamber of Commerce, San Diego Connect, which received a very large grant to support veteran and minority entrepreneurship, we'll locate that program in our building. So there'll be a lot of work around civic resilience. Next slide, please. A beacon for all San Diegans. We feel very strongly that the location in the East Village on the trolley and also the Market Street bus lines are the most traveled bus lines in San Diego. And we're trying to create an atmosphere, a feel to the building, programming in the building where everyone feels welcome. Next slide, please. About halfway through here, spanning an entire city block, as I said earlier. Next slide. And here's a picture again. Let's keep moving through the pictures. Next slide. Reaching across cultural genres, as I suggested, getting the World Music Society to start, to start programming with us is a wonderful coup. And it helps that the chair of their board is a retired UCLA professor of ethnomusicology. So as soon as he heard UCSD was opening a downtown center, he contacted me and said, we should be working together. Could we go to the next slide, please? From high culture to pop culture, you're going to see some pictures in a moment. We're creating a black box theater that can accommodate jazz concerts, chamber concerts, or high-level academic lectures, or a bar mitzvah, if you want it. It's a wonderful space. Next slide, please. Bridging generations, we will have learning and retirement programs downtown, as well as a wide array of pre-college programs. I'd like to describe two programs that are in the pipeline for us, because as a Maritime, I think you will smile and appreciate this. We decided to build an art house cinema with 65 seats, and we were able to arrange for the Digital Gym Cinema, who some of you might know, first cinema to show Roma in the United States, one of 7 this weekend to live stream Sundance Film Festival. We were sold out for every showing. And they have a year-round program in media arts education for minority youth, in particular first-generation college goers. Then Elizabeth Simmons, God bless her, introduced me to King Britt. Now, if you haven't met King Britt yet, he is in the music department, and he has a track record in music scoring, production, and one of the biggest collections of vinyl records in the United States. And he wants to do music programming courses and programs for kids in the summer. So then we have programs like Sally Rides Science and a lot of other programs. So we're going to have a lot of kids in this building. It was interesting. I don't know if Cecil's on this, but when Cecil Lytle visited and I was trying to seduce him to do a piano concert, he said, oh my God, we should be doing after school tutoring every day in this space, not just for Preuss kids, but for any kids who are in schools that require access to computers and a safe and quiet place to study. So from learning and retirement programs to career changing programs to conferences among professionals like neurosurgeons or urban planners, all generations will move through this building comfortably every day. Next slide, please. Mobilizing media. I cannot tell you how important it has been to be working with Shlomo Dubov and Ramesh Rao, Rand Steiger. Folks on campus have been wonderful in advising us as to what sorts of technology, video, and lighting infrastructure we need so that we can create atmospheres and we could create interactive programs with the shell, with the campus, simultaneous concerts from downtown going to the campus, from campus going downtown. So we have a media infrastructure superior to anything you can find downtown. Next slide, please. And just now we're going to show you some pretty pictures. Comic-Con, of course, we're booking them. And those of you who know me know my whole life at UCSD has been a tub on its own bottom. And Park and Market is receiving no state funds and no campus funds. It's a totally self-supporting enterprise. So hosting 4 days of Comic-Con represents over $200,000 in revenue to Park and Market. So Comic-Con will definitely be on our agenda. Next slide, please. The rest are just sort of pictures. We have a balcony stage. And for those of you who sing or play in chamber groups, I'd like you to look at this slide, our unique balcony stage, because behind there are steps where people can sit, but a performance by a tenor or a brass ensemble can happen on that stage, and we can seat 300 people in the foyer. So it's going to be a wonderful venue for special kinds of performing events. Next slide, please. Emerging artists to iconic talent. Let's go to the next slide. Intimate gatherings. So yes, weddings and bar mitzvahs, just like the Scripps Forum, but also grand events like you can have at the Price Center. Let's go to the next slide, please. And the space, systems, and staff that will accommodate anything. So we haven't just designed the space and put in the technology systems and the flexible furnishings, but we're building a team, one of whom is the son of Dave Miller, Todd Miller, who's managing this asset and working with the contractors and the furnishers and the many partners. And he's building a team that can provide support to academic units, to convention visitors, to downtown organizations, to arts, and even the cinema. We had a wonderful weekend working with the cinema in Sundance. I think I have, let's go to the next slide. I think I have about 2 minutes worth of pretty pictures to give you a sense. All of this is what our space will look and feel like. Could we go to the next slide? You see Stephanie Richards there and Wynton Marsalis. I think some of you know we already do the Festival of the New Trumpet West in cooperation with Lincoln Center. And Stephanie is the champion of that. And we do 7 or 8 concerts in a week with German marching bands, jazz bands, Handel, and exhibiting the various ways in which the trumpet speaks to diverse cultural experiences. And we're hoping to do similar things with the drum and the guitar. Again, serving that diversity mission and with programming that appeals to wide audiences. Could we go to the next slide, please? Arts and culture, some of you, well, you can recognize that a lot of these are our own folks who are doing stuff. The next slide, please. A platform for innovation, community, and collaboration. We even decided, and again, I'm going to invite the executive vice chancellor, because she raised with me, don't you want to do dance, health, and fitness programs? And so we actually have one classroom in the space that has a wooden floor so that we can do dance, yoga, meditation, and campus recreation is going to be programming that, because I think many of you know there's a growing number of workers downtown right now. The residents exceed the workers. In other words, a lot of downtown residents work on the Torrey Pines Mesa, but with all the real estate development going on downtown, they expect 6,000 new jobs, primarily in science, technology, and business services, to come on board in the next 3 years. So we will be a very good place for that. For people to take a class, come for meditation, pop into the bistro, or even catch a movie after work. Next slide. I think this is the last. Innovation, community collaboration. So you see, not only young people get exercise, but those of us in retirement get exercise as well. Next slide, please. Critical listening space. I mentioned the wonderful contributions of the Qualcomm Institute. We have a world-class theater, black box theater. The chancellor was very proud to show it to Michael Drake. It has a Myers sound system. It has video equipment, and it has lighting that can transform the space. Let's go to the next slide. I think we have one or two slides that show you here. We actually did an event through Extension a few years ago with Elon Musk, and it was a conversation. So this space can be set up this way. Let's go to the next slide, please. We can do evening special events, daytime events. Let's keep going. I've got too many slides. Next slide, please. This is the balcony. Let's go to the next slide. I want you to see this critical listening space. Oh, and that's the daytime where you can sit and study, and you can see the balcony there in the daytime. Next slide, please. This is what I wanted to show you. That same room, that same space where you could be having a conversation with Elon Musk and projecting it up to the campus. You could also be having a rock concert that very night, because that's how flexible it is. Next slide, please. So we think versatility is the great value, and that the way in which this building is designed and the way it will be programmed will touch the hearts and minds of a wide array of communities and values. And that versatility is an enormous contribution to downtown. Next slide, please. And diversity is our strength. We have a very powerful equity, diversity, and inclusion agenda in terms of how we approach all our programming. And we have advisory committees made up of faculty and community groups that are helping us do this. Next slide, please. Cultivating the future of San Diego. I believe profoundly that research universities, not necessarily because they aspired to be, but have become anchor institutions in their communities. General Motors, General Electric, maybe even Qualcomm come and go. But there's certain institutions that stay and sustain, and universities like ours represent that kind of institution. So we are, of necessity, part of the future of the region. Next slide, please. And this is some of our community partners, some of our campus partners that I've described to you before. I haven't talked enough about what we're doing with mainly Mozart. We're doing a day-and-a-half event. It's a kick, folks. Lights, cameras, autism. And we're going to show films, perform music, have lectures, and an art exhibit, all by talent on the spectrum, working with the Autism Society, the School of Medicine, and mainly Mozart. San Diego Opera has embarked on a series of chamber operas, so we will probably do one chamber opera a year with them. And there is, a multitude of opportunities on the horizon yet to be discovered. And I think I have one more slide, and that's it. And I hope we can have a little Q&A. I did take a full half hour. We're working with many campus units. Again, and I say this particularly to friends like Peter Gurovich, with whom I've shared a professional life. I cannot believe the enthusiasm among the younger faculty for having some kind of a presence in the city for their students, for their research programs, and because they really care about the community in which they live. And so that's been one of the most rewarding aspects of these last few years for me, and why I'm so happy to stay on one more year to get this sort of up and launched, because it will carry itself over the long run. And I think that's my last slide. Let's see. Is that the last one? Yes. Okay. Hello, everybody. Hope I didn't take too long.
Mary, that was really exciting. You relayed to us your enthusiasm. We thank you so very much for this wonderful presentation. And I now toss the ball out to all of our members. I'm sure that there are questions that people have.